Hello! With the upcoming update for Isles of Yore, we wanted to do a short breakdown video on what went into the vocalization for the Allosaurus. The base idea for the Allosaurus was to sound like a fierce predator, as it's a carnivore and players are able to encounter wild Allosaurus or even play as them, starting as a juvenile, of course. The general aesthetic for the sound was to do a hybrid of what people might expect a dinosaur to sound like, but sneak in little bits and pieces of what it may actually sound like based on research that we did in pre-pro of the project. Initially, we discovered that the Allosaurus would have hissed and cooed a bit like a bird, even sometimes purred, but that wasn't exactly threatening to the player or even very exciting to listen to, being honest. To compromise, we decided how much we want to lean into it sounding realistic or more designed and expected based on which emotional state that the Allosaurus is currently in. Courtship, for example, we leaned a lot more onto how the Allosaurus would have sounded with a few bits and pieces of more expected elements, so it's grounded more with all the other emotes. For example, this is what that sounds like. On the contrary, for Threaten, we went for something that's a little bit more expected, so it can be a little bit more exciting and scary for the player if they encounter this in the wild. Diving into the sub-project so that we can see everything that went into it. The Allosaurus ended up being primarily made of elephants, gator, and seal, with a heavy leaning and emphasis on the gator elements. Altogether for Threaten, this is what it sounded like. To break down each element one by one, starting from the top, we have a little elephant huff, some yogurt tube. They're alongside the elephant, gator, and seal. There are quite a few other miscellaneous little props and other weird things that just kind of help make it a little more interesting to listen to and a little more character. First one of those is the yogurt tube. Some more elephant. Some camel. Seal. Some dry ice to add a really harsh hiss to the high end at the start of the attack. Seal. Some more gator. Some jelly. This is probably another one of those yogurt blowing into yogurt recordings. More gator. Now next up we have saxophone and baboon. Now a lot of the gator elements, I thought they were very noisy to listen to and didn't have a very interesting tonal element to it. But I didn't want to make it too tonal sounding because despite the Allosaurus in real life having cooed and purred a bit, it didn't really have a tonal characteristic based on the research that we did. But to make this a little bit more interesting to listen to, I added these two layers, which are subtle when I take them in and out, but I think they add a lot to the overall emotion of this vocalization. So here's saxophone. And baboon. I just love the screechiness of that. I'll play the whole thing without these two layers. Which can work, it's just a little bit too generic, I think. And if I add the saxophone and baboon in, it adds a little bit more something. Then we have more elephant. Some party blower. Some more gator. It's really nice, almost LFE type of element. Some exercise ball. This little gravelly texture, which I thought was really cool. And then some miscellaneous bird. Almost sounds like chalk being scraped or something similar to that. The general idea behind how we went about designing these elements was to have our first starting elements, which are more focused on the creature opening up its mouth, and then ending it off with the bellows and of almost vocal cords vibrating and slowly slowing down inside of its throat to kind of make it seem like no matter where you hear this vocalization, whether if you're the player playing as the Allosaurus or if you hear it in the wild, you'll either feel a sense of power or you will be scared and want to go the other direction. All of these layers go to an adult bus, which is a little different to the juvenile bus. Because for the juvenile elements, we went for something that's a little cuter, a little softer sounding, a little higher pitched. Some of the assets are shared between the two, just modified a bit. There's some new elements. I won't go too much into that right now. But for the processing bus, on what glues the whole thing together for the adult, first I'm just going to turn everything off so we can hear what that sounds like. My apologies, not really great gain staging. First off, we have Gullfoss to do some general tone shaping. Pro Q3. OTT to act a bit like an exciter. Black box to saturate the whole thing. A lot of inflator, kind of doing that overblown inflator saturation thing. Fresh air to add some more high end and high mids. Transient shaper to make it pop a bit more. Vintage limiter from Ozone to make the whole thing a lot louder and compress it a ton. And then another limiter to make it even louder. And that is what went into the adult Allosaurus threatened vocalization. Thank you so much for stopping by to watch this short breakdown. I hope you enjoy playing as the Allosaurus, and bye for now.